and dance with them instead of slay them. So then, wow, this is a really creepy stage. Over here. So the next time I took the MoMondays stage, I talked about learning how to trust the process. Trust that I'm held by the universe, but also trusting enough in myself that if I continue to take action and move forward, then I know that the universe has me. So it's that equal story of trusting something bigger than me, but also trusting myself. Well, the months that followed that talk were possibly the hardest months of my life to actually have to learn that lesson. So much so that I didn't always even know how I was going to cover my bills from month to month. So it really was a lesson in full-on trust. And you know what? I paid every bill every month for the past year, always not necessarily knowing how that was going to come about. So as I sat to prepare for tonight, part of me thinks I should talk about the year that I spent on the beach. Because this MoMondays stage seems to be like a little genie in a bottle. And this is my third wish. But instead, I'm going to continue to tell you the story of my evolution, the story of how I'm trying to answer the question, who am I? So I have been studying alchemy for quite some time. And most of the times when I say that to people, they think of these wizardy old scientists in labs huddled over their crucible for years and years and years trying to turn a lump of lead into gold. That's partially true, but what any true alchemist will tell you is that you can spend all the years you want trying to turn that lead into gold, but unless you're doing the internal work, that lead is always going to be lead. So true alchemy really is about self-transformation. So the first step in my alchemical journey was to really look at that hunk of lead sitting in the bowl in front of me. What is my lead? What are all the labels that I put on myself? Daughter, mother, wife, ex-wife, administrative assistant, nutritionist, healer, teacher, woman, etc., etc. And what I noticed that I was doing is with most of those labels, they came with either a little positive or a negative after them. And what I was trying really hard to do was to take all of those negative labels and just get rid of them, and just be left with all the lovely positive ones. But then I was taught this beautiful sentence that said, the true magician gains their power by becoming a depolarized neutral. That is not a sexy way to describe a magician. So I'm like, okay, well, what does that mean? And how do I do that? So what it's meant for me, and how I've done it, is I've now gone back to that list of labels, and I've looked at all of the negative ones, and I've tried to look at them from every direction, and I've tried to see some of the strengths that actually are inside those negative labels. So for example, like Kevin, I said to him at the break that I think that we're the masculine and feminine version of each other. I too have had 3 concussions, live with quite a bit of chronic pain. So I always labeled that as a negative one. So as I did this part of my growth and my healing, I was like, okay, what did I learn from that? What has been the strength that's come from that experience in my life? And what I've realized is it's allowed me to be a lot more compassionate to the pain in other people. It's also allowed me to tap into my intuition way, way better than I could before. It's taught me how to slow down and take care of myself. It's also allowed me to change what I do for a living completely. And the way I'm allowed to serve this world now is just so beautiful. And it's brought a whole new circle of friends into my life. So that's a lot of positives attached to that negative label. So I went through my list and did that for all of the things I traditionally thought of as negative. But then when I got to the positive labels, the challenge there was to see where ego was creeping into each of those positive labels and keeping me from being truly authentic in how I was leading my life. For example, as part of my journey, I stepped into the label of priestess. And I love that one. I'm a Scorpio, so I love all those dark and mysterious and sexy things. So the label of priestess just had a lot of pride in it for me. But what I realized is I was starting to cut myself off from anybody who didn't have a spiritual slant to the way they saw the world. The types of people that I was taking on as clients were changing and getting much, much more narrow. And I had stopped serving my athlete population, which I love to work with, because I was like, well, a priestess can't serve an athlete. So you can see how this became a really, really enriching experience for me to kind of become this depolarized neutral. So it did become sexy for me. But then that led to the next stage in my journey, where I was challenged to look back at all those labels and remove any of them from my list that were impermanent. For example, I have brown hair. One day, I'll be up on this stage talking to you all, and I won't have brown hair anymore. Hopefully not soon, but probably sooner than I think. So once I realized that I was going back on this list again, and now to get rid of anything that was impermanent, what I really began to realize is maybe this journey isn't so much a staircase, but a spiral. And maybe in our becoming gold from lead, as much as we're becoming, we're also on a journey of unbecoming. So we go around and around this spiral journey that we're on. Nobody's above us, nobody's below us, just in a different spot on the spiral. Labels that I'm desperate to cling to on my first time around are so easy to let go of on the next time around. So really, as we journey around and we let go and re-examine, what I'm really realizing is the answer to my question, who am I, really has become, I am. I was talking to one of my athletes recently, and he said, we were talking about community engagement in sport, and he said as he matured as an athlete, what he began to realize is that the player on the other team was simply I am wearing a different jersey color. And as I kind of sunk into that, I realized the more I step into my I am, it comes with a lot of freedom and peace and joy, and also a lot of love, not just for myself, but for others as well. Because as I get really comfortable being I am, it's easy for me to look out there and see you are, and you are, and you are. In the Bible, did a good segue there, right? Yeah. In the Bible, God is once asked the question, who am I? God responds by saying, I am that I am. If I am is enough of a complete sentence for the divine, who am I to think that I am needs finishing? I am is a complete sentence. Thank you.